In this tutorial, I'm going to teach you a workflow that will help you edit your interview footage to make a good looking video to turn into your teacher. Now if you look up in my event window, you can see I have my interview footage up here. I've got a couple of songs and then a ton of pictures that go along with my interview footage. Now the first step is going to be trimming the fat from your interview. Some of you might be coming in with really long interviews and need to cut down to just a few minutes, so look for sections where your talent has really good answers and get rid of the rest. And there's a couple ways to do this. If you have only one clip, it might be easiest if you select the entire clip and bring it down to the project and use either the blade tool or the range selection tool. To get to the blade tool, you can click on this guy here and it'll bring down a list of all of the tools. And what the blade tool does is basically chop up your clips so that you can select them and delete them. So I'll do one chop there, another chop there, and go back to the arrow tool to select them. So where we had one clip, we now have 3. So I can go into the middle and hit delete and get rid of that. And if we go back up here and go to the range selection tool, we can do basically the same thing, but this is going to be clicking and dragging over the selection that we want to get rid of and then hitting delete. And then if we go back to the arrow, these edits don't have to be perfect, they can just be kind of ballpark, and then you can go to the edge of the clip and drag that left and right to really fine tune that edit in case you needed an extra second here or there. Now if you come in, you have a ton of footage or a bunch of clips, it might be easier to work up in the event window using in and out points. To do that, all you have to do is play through your footage, and then once you find the portion of the clip that you want to start at, hit I on your keyboard, play it a little bit further, or jump ahead, hit O on your keyboard, and you'll see how that yellow box is now only in the selection I just told it to do. And then you'll click and drag on that selection and bring it down to your project. This portion of the editing process is going to take the longest, so choose whichever technique comes easiest to you. It's going to take a few playthroughs, so be patient and don't worry if the program unexpectedly quits. Final Cut Pro auto saves, so it's pretty much impossible to lose your progress. So I've skipped ahead to where I've trimmed all of my footage, and now I have just a handful of clips left, and if you look, you can see there's these little blue bubbles on top of the clips, and those are called markers. Now if you put a marker down, it lets you write notes to yourself later. So I went into each one of these and I jotted down what picture I want to use for that portion. So to add one of those markers, you just play through your clip.
What's the thing called? You know, the ride. Oh, Jurassic Park was a good one.
So there I want to use the Jurassic Park picture. So I'm going to hit M on the keyboard and that's going to put that little marker in there for me. And once you double click on it, then you can write your note. Alright, so now that I have all my markers in there, I'm just going to go through them and put the pictures on top. So to bring in a picture, all you have to do is click and drag it down to your timeline like we did with our footage. And when we play it, you're going to notice that we see the picture, but we're going to be able to hear our interview footage underneath it.
My wife and daughter and I went down there and we had a lot of fun. You know, the road trip was really half the vacation.
And that's all there is to it. So I'm going to speed this up while I throw in the rest of those pictures, and then I'll show you how to do some other stuff. Alright, now that I have all my pictures in there, I'm going to play them through and see if there's anything I need to tweak on them.
Let's go, and we did all the touristy things. And we rode the, the tour buses, went over Golden Gate Bridge. We did the Ripley's, believe it or not.
Alright, so there's a couple problems in those. You can see while our picture's on top, we can still see our interview footage underneath, and we don't want that. So we're going to add a simple black background underneath that picture. To get to that, you just click on the Generators tab, and we're going to use this custom slide. We're going to click and drag that over just like one of the pictures, but if we click and hold it for a second, it should, there we go. Oh. It should let you sandwich that in between the picture and your footage, and then we're just going to drag that out through all of our pictures. So now when we play over here,
we did the Ripley's Believe It or Not, ate clam chowder out of the sourdough bowls.
now we have that nice black background where our footage used to be seeping through. So we're going to use the blade tool and just get rid of all of that extra black footage. Alright, the other way to fix that is to scale your pictures, and that's helpful too if you have a picture that's a little bit too pixelated.
And we did all the touristy things, and we rode the the tour buses.
So this guy needs to scale down a little bit for it to be crisper. And to do that, you just click on the transform button here in the viewer, and that adds these bubbles to your picture that you can click and drag to scale it in or out. You can also grab the center bubble and you can move around the position. You can grab the handle outside of it, and that'll also let you rotate your picture too. So I'm going to leave that one like that. So now that I have all the pictures in there, I'm ready to start adding some text. So at the very least, we're going to want some kind of introduction, and then at the end, some credits with like a special thanks too. And then you might also want some question slides to introduce the questions during your interview. So to do that, we're just going to jump over to the text window over here by clicking this T, and then it's going to give us a whole bunch of different text packages. Some of them are pretty cool. They have like little animations that you can cycle through. But for this one, I'm just going to go with a custom one and just go really basic. So just like we did with our generator, we're just going to click and drag, but this one we're going to throw at the very start. There we go. Now to edit your text, you simply click above it to snap the playhead above it, and then we're going to select our text clip, and you can change it a couple of ways. You can either double click on it and just start typing in that window. And then it's also got that little bubble in the middle too, so you can drag that around and change the placement. Or you can come up to this window on the right and adjust your text too, and that's good because it's got your spell check, which is nice if you don't know how to spell anything like me. And in this window, there's a bunch of other cool options. You can choose your font type. We'll go something a little bit thicker. You can choose your font size, alignment, spacing, a whole bunch of stuff. And then down here in this face kind of box, you can hit show, and that'll let you change the color too. So let's go with orange. Now when you create a new text clip, instead of doing the same steps, grabbing the custom, dragging it out there, redoing all of these settings, you can just copy the one that we just made by clicking on it, holding option, and dragging it. And we'll throw this guy at the end for our end credits. So now when we come back over here, all we have to do is double click and then change the text. I think there was one more spot I needed a question slide at, definitely at the start. So again, I'm just going to click, hold option, and drag, and then place that right in there so that we don't have to adjust the settings anymore. Now Final Cut is going to try and keep all of your text on one line. It's going to just keep going and going forever. If you need it to go to the next line down, you have to manually go in there and hit enter. It's kind of annoying, but it's something you get used to. So now that I have all the text in there, I'm ready to start adding some music. So I'm going to go to the event and just scroll up to the songs I picked out already, and we're just going to drag and drop that into this bottom layer. And let's see how that sounds. Alright, so we want our audio to fall in this -6 range over here on our sound meter. And it's doing that, but the song is way too loud and we can't hear him talking at all. So let me expand this clip a little bit. So if you look in the middle of your clips, you can see a little line running through where the sound waves are, and that's basically controlling your decibel level or the clip's volume. So I'm going to bring this guy down. That should do it. And then I'm going to take the interview audio and I'm going to bring that all the way up. And let's see how that sounds.
We took a road trip down to California this last summer. My wife and daughter and I went down there. We had a lot of fun. The road trip was really half the vacation.
Alright, so that looks good. But at this first part, there's no interview talking, so I'm going to have the song be a little bit louder. Now to do that, we're going to add some key points in the audio clip, and to do that you just hover over that decibel line and you're going to hold the Option on the keyboard, and that'll give your arrow that little diamond icon next to it. So if we click a couple of times, now we're able to go into the individual sections of that audio clip and raise them, and you can see how it gives a little fade in here too. So we're going to bump this up to what was it? Yeah, let's bring it at 0 where it was when we brought it in. And then you can click and drag these left and right too, so it doesn't have to be perfect when you put them in there. And let's see how this sounds.
We took a road trip down to California this last summer. My wife and daughter and I went down there. We had a lot of fun. The road trip was really half the vacation.
And that sounds pretty good. I'm going to bring it down just a little bit more. And that should be good. Now at the end of the song there's a bunch of lyrics, and I don't really want those since it's going to distract from whatever he's talking about. So I'm just going to use the blade on it and cut out where those lyrics are. And then I found some kind of scary music to throw in for when he starts talking about the Winchester haunted house. So just like we did with our initial footage, you can just select a range and drag and drop that down. Now if you hover towards the edge of the audio clips, you can see there's like a little kind of bubble hanging out on the edge, and if you scroll up with your mouse and see how it changes, you can click and drag that out, and that'll put a fade up on that clip. So when we play it, let's bring it down just a little bit. It should have a nice fade up into that creepy music.
House where this lady just kept this rich lady, Winchester rifles. She was a millionaire, early 1900s, and just kept building.
Alright, so the music's still a little bit too loud, and we're going to bump up all these clips audio. And let's give that another shot.
It's this crazy old house where this lady just kept, this rich lady, Winchesters, rifles. She was a millionaire, early 1900s, and just kept building and building her house, getting bigger and bigger. And she had some spiritual reasons, because she figured if she stopped construction, that she would pass away.
Alright, so I don't want the video to end with that spooky music, so I'm just gonna trim the rest of that, and I'm gonna bring back that first song I used to finish up the video. And see how that sounds.
And pretty bizarre. And I'd definitely do the trip again.
Alright, now that works. Now we have all of our media in here, and we're ready to throw in our transitions to kind of smooth over all those edits. Now to get to the transitions, you just click on this button here to bring up the transitions window. And just like our text, it has a ton of cool packages, but the most common one's the cross dissolve, and that one gets the job done most of the time. So to apply it, all you do is click and drag that onto one of your pictures. And once we play through, it should have a nice fade up and fade out.
The ride. Oh, Jurassic Park was a good one. One of the really fun places we stopped.
Alright, and that works. So if you want to adjust how fast the transition goes, you can grab these bars and you can drag them in and out to change their timing too. Now I think I want to use that cross dissolve on all the clips, so instead of clicking and dragging that onto each one of them, I'm just going to drag a box and select them all. And if I hit Command T on the keyboard, it's a little shortcut and that'll add the transition to each one of the clips, so that when we play them through, they'll all fade in and out of each other.
We had our builders continually building doors into walls that go nowhere. Stairways go up to nothing, and hallways that just go 10 feet and stop. It was just kind of, it was fun. It was kind of creepy because it felt like they were spirits and pretty bizarre.
Alright, so that looks good. Now we can also throw cross dissolves onto our footage if there's any jump cuts. I think I have one over here where he's in the middle of a sentence and then it just kind of jumps to the next answer.
Really half the vacation. But some of the things we did along the way was pretty fun. We stopped.
Alright, so let's see if a cross dissolve can kind of smooth that out. So if you click and drag that guy and just put it in the middle, and the X is kind of like a band-aid. And you can also just click on the edge of it and hit Command T and it'll only apply it to that side. So let's see if that works.
The road trip was really half the vacation. But some of the things we did along the way was pretty fun. We stopped in San Francisco, and we did all the touristy things. And we rode the tour buses, went over Golden Gate Bridge. We did the Ripley's, believe it or not, ate clam chowder out of the sourdough bowls, and so that was a lot of fun. So when we were
Alright, and so I think I'm just about done with the video. I've got all my pictures in there, my interviews trimmed down to a time that'll work for my teacher, and I've got some music in there that kind of carries the whole piece too. So I'll post the finished video along with this one in our playlist, and you can kind of check out how the whole thing plays. But if you follow this workflow, you should be able to finish your video and have it looking pretty good in a reasonable amount of time.